If you're watching the news coming out of London right now, you should sit down. You need to understand that the world you woke up in this morning no longer exists. The map of global power has just been torn in two, and the United States of America is standing on the wrong side of the fault line. For nearly a century, U.S. presidents have relied on one absolute, unbreakable truth. They believed that no matter what happened in the world, no matter how bad things got, they would always have one thing: the special relationship. They would have the United Kingdom. London was the anchor of American influence in Europe. London was the unshakable deputy. London was the loyal friend. Donald Trump bet his entire foreign policy on that assumption. He believed he could threaten the world with tariffs, tear up global treaties, insult his allies, and still have the British Prime Minister waiting on line one. But today the phone rang in the Oval Office. And it wasn't to offer loyalty. It was to say goodbye. In a joint press conference at 10 Downing Street that has left Washington completely paralyzed, the British government didn't just announce a trade deal. It announced a geopolitical earthquake. The United Kingdom has officially signed the London-Ottawa Accords and has joined a radically redesigned, heavily militarized and economically exclusive trade bloc led by none other than Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. They're calling it the Commonwealth Common Market. At the Pentagon, they're already calling it something else. They're calling it a fortress. And the most terrifying part for Donald Trump, the doors to that fortress are locked from the inside, and the United States doesn't have the key. In the next few minutes, I'm going to explain exactly how Mark Carney orchestrated the greatest diplomatic coup of the 21st century. I'm going to show you how a man who once ran the Bank of England used his deep personal ties to London to pull America's oldest ally right out from under Donald Trump's nose. I'm going to break down the specific financial and technological mechanisms that are going to make the US dollar bleed over the coming months. And most importantly, I'm going to tell you exactly how much this catastrophic failure of American leadership is going to cost you personally. Because make no mistake, you are watching history shift in real time. To grasp the magnitude of what just happened, you have to look at what Trump pushed the UK to do and why London finally snapped. For months, Trump has been living under the illusion that America first means everyone else falls in line. He slapped punitive tariffs on European goods, and when the UK asked for an exemption, he demanded total capitulation. He wanted the UK to weaken its food standards, open its National Health Service to U.S. pharmaceutical companies, and publicly back his trade war against Canada. He didn't treat the UK like a sovereign nation with 1,000 years of history. He treated it like a desperate subsidiary of the Trump Organization. He backed London into a corner. He told them, "You don't have a choice. You left the European Union. You need us." But he forgot who's sitting in the Prime Minister's office in Ottawa. Mark Carney is not a conventional politician. He doesn't throw tantrums on social media. He doesn't govern by ego. He governs by math, systems, and deep institutional relationships. Before he became Canada's head of government, he was governor of the Bank of England. He knows the British financial system better than anyone alive. He knows the lords. He knows the bankers. He knows the king. He spent years in London steering their economy through the chaos of Brexit. He is trusted there. He is respected there in a way Donald Trump will never be anywhere. When Trump issued his ultimatum to London, Carney didn't hold a press conference. He picked up the phone. He offered the United Kingdom a lifeline. But it wasn't just a bilateral trade pact. It was a vision. Carney looked at the remnants of the old British Empire, the Commonwealth of Nations, and realized, this is a sleeping giant. 56 countries, more than 2.7 billion people, a combined GDP projected to hit $20 trillion by the end of the decade. For decades, the Commonwealth was just a symbolic club, a relic of the past where leaders drank tea and posed for group photos. Carney weaponized it. He drew up a blueprint for a fully integrated, high-standard economic and security bloc. We're talking zero tariffs on advanced technology, shared supply chains for critical minerals, synchronized financial regulations between the City of London and Bay Street in Toronto, and, most importantly, an integrated defense and intelligence architecture that cuts Washington out entirely. Carney has built, out of the ashes of the old world, a 21st century superpower. And today, the United Kingdom stepped inside that fortress. Let's look at the receipts, because the numbers breaking right now are going to send shockwaves through Wall Street. First, supply chains. The United States heavily depends on imported critical minerals to build everything from smartphones to fighter jets. Trump has alienated precisely the countries that supply them. Under the London-Ottawa Accords, Canada and Australia, two of the largest mining powers on Earth, have agreed to grant exclusive, preferential export rights to UK and Commonwealth industrial hubs. They are constructing a closed-loop supply chain for the green energy transition and advanced military tech. Do you understand what that means? It means that if a U.S. company wants Canadian lithium or Australian rare earths, it goes to the back of the line, and it will pay a hefty premium. Trump wanted a trade war. Carney just gave him one, but he cut off America's ammunition before the first shot was fired. Second, the intelligence and defense sector. This is the piece that has the Pentagon in full-blown panic today. You've heard of the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. It's the most intimate spy network on the planet. The new Commonwealth Agreement, however, includes a specific clause on sovereign data integration. In plain English, the UK, Canada, and Australia are merging their cyber defense protocols and AI research, creating a secure digital perimeter the United States is not invited into. They are effectively building a Three Eyes inner circle. Why? Because after watching Donald Trump leak classified information, burn intelligence assets, and treat national security like a reality show storyline, London and Ottawa concluded that Washington is a security risk. They no longer trust the President of the United States with their secrets. Let that sink in. The nations that bled alongside America on the beaches of Normandy and in the deserts of Afghanistan have decided the current occupant of the Oval Office is too volatile to be trusted with their radar feeds. And it gets worse. Let's talk about the military bases. Over the last 48 hours, Trump has threatened to pull U.S. aircrews and nuclear-capable bombers out of Royal Air Force bases in England if the UK signed this deal. He thought it was his trump card. He thought the British public would panic at the thought of losing American protection. But the British Prime Minister didn't flinch. In fact, we're hearing reports that the UK's response was chillingly simple. They reportedly told the White House, "If you want to leave, we'll help you pack." Because the Canadians and Australians are already moving in, Canada is deploying its new defense industrial capabilities to fill the gap. Australia is sending naval assets to patrol alongside the Royal Navy. They are proving in real time that the U.S. military umbrella is no longer strictly necessary for Western survival. Trump tried to use the U.S. armed forces as a protection racket, and the Commonwealth just called his bluff. Now let's talk about the tech sector because that's where the real future is being decided. The London-Ottawa Accords include a brand new initiative called Project Northern Light. It's a massive multi-billion-dollar sovereign AI infrastructure program. Carney and the UK leadership recognize that data is the new oil. They looked at Silicon Valley. They looked at the tech giants aligned with the Trump administration. And they understood that letting U.S. corporations control their data is a fundamental threat to their national sovereignty. So they are banning U.S. tech monopolies from bidding on critical government contracts across the entire Commonwealth bloc. They are building their own AI systems, trained on their own data, hosted on servers located exclusively in Canada, the UK, and Australia. Silicon Valley is in full-scale meltdown this morning. Tech CEOs are frantically calling the White House, begging Trump to tone down the rhetoric. They're watching a market of 2.7 billion people slam its doors shut on American software. But Trump isn't picking up. He's too busy watching his own financial empire start to crack. Now let's look at the financial strike. The City of London is Europe's financial capital. Toronto is a banking heavyweight in the Americas. By linking their regulatory frameworks, Carney and the British Prime Minister are creating a transatlantic financial superhighway that bypasses New York clearinghouses altogether. They are building a system in which Commonwealth nations can trade, settle debts, and issue bonds without ever touching the US dollar. Trump loves weaponizing the dollar. He loves threatening countries with sanctions, cutting them off from the global financial system if they don't do exactly what he demands. Carney just engineered a bypass valve. He just gave half the world a way to do business without asking Donald Trump for permission. You can literally see the reaction in the markets on your screen right now. As soon as the announcement went live, the British pound spiked against the dollar. The Canadian dollar jumped to multi-year highs. The Dow Jones opened down 200 points and is still falling. Investors are terrified because they know what a world looks like when America is isolated. Now let's talk about what's happening inside the White House, because the contrast in leadership style has never been clearer, and it's humiliating for the United States. Think back to Davos just a few months ago. Mark Carney delivered his now famous rupture speech. He stood before the world's elite and calmly explained that the old world order was dead and that middle powers like Canada would no longer submit to the chaotic whims of fading superpowers. He got a standing ovation. Trump responded with angry social media posts, called Carney weak, and threatened 100% tariffs. But who looks weak today? Mark Carney executed this move with zero leaks, zero drama, and zero public threats. It was surgical. It was the work of a statesman playing a 50-year game. He flew quietly to London, he worked the back channels, he built consensus, he treated his partners with respect, he treated them as equals. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is caught in a rage loop. Sources say the West Wing looks like a war zone today. He is yelling at his trade advisors. He's demanding that someone punish the UK. He's drafting posts calling the British government traitors and threatening to seize British assets in the United States. But he has no leverage. That's the brutal reality crashing down on him. He spent years burning bridges, convinced he could always walk on water. Now he's stranded on an island, screaming at the ships sailing away. He can't sanction the UK without blowing up the US banking sector. He can't tariff Canada without risking hyperinflation in the American Midwest. He pushed and pushed and pushed, believing the world would eventually bend to his will. Instead, the world simply walked around him. What does this mean for you? Why should you care that the UK and Canada are building a new alliance? Why should you care about the Commonwealth? You should care because the era of easy American dominance is officially over, and you're going to foot the bill for Trump's arrogance. When the US is locked out of the largest and fastest-growing free trade bloc on the planet, American exports become uncompetitive. Factories in Ohio, Michigan, and Pennsylvania that depend on exporting parts to the UK or importing raw materials from Canada are going to see their profit margins evaporate overnight. That means layoffs. That means hiring freezes. That means entire shifts canceled at plants because the math no longer works. When the Commonwealth starts settling trade in its own currencies, global demand for the US dollar falls. When the dollar falls, the cost of everything you buy goes up. Inflation isn't just a domestic issue. It's a geopolitical penalty. And Mark Carney just handed Donald Trump a massive penalty for bad behavior. You're going to see electronics prices spike. You're going to see car prices jump because modern vehicle supply chains are deeply integrated with Canadian manufacturing. You're going to see energy prices whip around wildly because the stabilizing force of the North American energy grid is now fractured. Canada will prioritize its new common market partners over US buyers. Why would Ottawa send cheap electricity to New York while Trump is threatening them with tariffs, when London is offering open markets and defense tech at the same time? This is the invisible tax of America First. It sounds great on a bumper sticker. It feels good at a rally when everyone's cheering. But in the real world, America First means America alone. And Trump didn't just lose a trade deal today. He lost the narrative of the 21st century. For years, the story was that America was the indispensable nation, that no matter how chaotic Washington got, the world fundamentally needed the U.S. military and the U.S. consumer to survive. We were the sun, and everyone else was just a planet in orbit. Mark Carney just proved that's a lie. He proved that middle powers, when united, can stand up to a superpower and win. He proved that competence, stability, and mutual respect are actually more powerful than loud threats and midnight tantrums. Imagine you're a foreign diplomat watching this unfold today. You look at Donald Trump, a man who rips up treaties, insults his friends, and changes foreign policy based on whoever flattered him last on TV. And then you look at Mark Carney, a calm, brilliant technocrat who just united 56 nations into a global fortress without firing a single shot. Whom are you going to trust with your economy? Whom are you going to trust with your national security? The UK has made its choice, and it won't be the last. Australia is watching. India is watching. The nations of the Pacific and Africa are watching. The dominoes are starting to fall. This is how empires end. Not with a massive invasion, not with a catastrophic war, but with a quiet press conference in a rainy city where your oldest friend looks into the camera and says, "We don't need you anymore. The United States has been outplayed, outmaneuvered, and outclassed." Donald Trump demanded absolute obedience from the world, and Mark Carney just handed him absolute isolation. The Commonwealth is awake, the fortress is built, and the drawbridge has just been raised. Think about what happens tomorrow when Trump inevitably lashes out, when he tries to punish Canada or the UK for daring to secure their own future. Every time he swings, he's only going to hit himself. Every tariff he slaps on will just speed up the integration of the Commonwealth bloc. Every threat he makes will only prove to the world that Carney was right to build the wall in the first place. Donald Trump is trapped in a cage of his own making, and the entire world is watching him unravel. If you want to understand where this goes next, if you want to know what happens when the US dollar takes the hit and the supply chains start to crack, you need to stay engaged. The mainstream media is going to spin this. They'll tell you it's a minor trade dispute. They'll parrot White House talking points and insist that America is stronger than ever. But you know the truth. You just watched history turn the page. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications because this geopolitical earthquake is just getting started, and I'll be here to break down every aftershock. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Did the UK betray the United States, or did Trump drive them away? Is Mark Carney protecting the global order, or is he dismantling the American empire? I read every single one. Stay vigilant, stay informed. The world just changed forever.